Hello, I'm Henry R. Mockingbird, your host with the mustache. And for this theme month, I am fulfilling a viewer's request made by IVV, who asked me to review the Herbie movies. So sit back and enjoy Herbie month.
Chassis, not very sleek, but he's bright and he's sassy. When you're with him, you better leave your cares behind. It's Herbie. He makes you feel that there's a rainbow waiting just around the bend. And if the chips are down, you know he'll help you to the end. And Herbie's my best friend. My best friend. My best friend.
And the first film I'm going to review for Herbie Month is the very first Herbie movie, the 1969 Love Bug. So, let's get going. The film is about a down-on-his-luck race car driver named Jim Douglas, who teams up with a VW who might have a mind of his own. So what do I think? Well, I'll tell you. Well, I like it, and damn has this movie really hold up. The film was based on a 1961 book called The Car, the Boy, and the Girl, which was written by Gordon Buffett. It was the last live-action Disney film that Walt Disney was a part of before he passed away in 1966. The film was directed by Robert Stevenson. No, not that Robert Stevenson. That Robert Stevenson, yeah. The guy behind the second Herbie film, as well as The Absent-Minded Professor, Bedknobs and Broomsticks, Mary Poppins, That Darn Cat, Shaggy DA, and many more. It took them a while before deciding what car they should use, including a Toyota, a Volvo, a TVR, an MG, before they decided to use a Volkswagen Beetle. The film starts with stock footage of racing from the film Fireball 500. There are a lot of funny scenes. One scene involves a bear getting into Mr. Thorndyke's car, and Mr. Thorndike has so much mud on his goggles he can't see the bear. Even after the bear wipes Mr. Thorndyke's goggles off, he still doesn't see him. And when he finally does see him, they're both terrified of each other and run out of the car. This movie doesn't just have comedy, it also has drama. For example, Herbie runs off and Jim goes after him. This scene really knows how to tug your heartstrings. It makes you feel bad for Herbie and you want them to find each other. Hell, even Herbie starts crying when he gets towed by Mr. Thorndyke's henchmen, as Mr. Thorndike tries to take Herbie apart. Hell, the way the mechanics look, they're all bulky and they're in the shadow. And the scene later follows with Herbie trying to jump off the freaking Golden Gate Bridge. Damn, did this just get dark. Let's talk about the characters. First, there's Jim Douglas, who really grows throughout the film. He's played by Dean Jones, who was also in the third Herbie film, That Darn Cat, and Shaggy DA. And then there's Carol, which her and Jim have a lot in common. For one thing, they really both like cars. And the scene where they're both talking also pulls at your heartstrings. There's Tennessee, who's the only one who seems to believe that Herbie is actually alive. He's played by Buddy Hackett, who is also the voice of Scuttle in The Little Mermaid.
Use these little babies to straighten their hair out. See, just a little twirl here and a yank there, and boy, oh, like that. Yeah, I got an aesthetically pleasing configuration of hair that humans go nuts.
Hey, you want to know how the car got his name? Herbie? Well,
Herbie's all right.
Who's Herbie?
This little car, named after my Uncle Herb. He used to box middleweight, preliminary mostly. Gradually, his nose got shaped more and more like to remind me of this little car. Do you mind?
Whatever you say, Tennessee.
and then there's Mr. Thorndike, who's a real snob. He will lie, cheat, or bribe to get what he wants. He's also really sneaky. He laughs like he's the Riddler, for crying out loud. So is the butt of a lot of jokes, as Herbie often whizzes oil, or at one point farts oil on him. He's played by David Tomlinson, who fans of my series might recognize as the butler from Miranda, while fans outside of my series will probably recognize him more as the dad from Mary Poppins.
There are these two wonderful young people, Jane and Michael, and they meet one day on the street, and Jane says to Michael, "I know a man with a wooden leg named Smith." And Michael says, "Really? What's the name of his other leg?"
We get all the staples of the 60s in this film. We get beatniks, and we get this funny line from the beatnik.
We all prisoners, Chicky baby. We all locked in.
Even get Velma. No, seriously, that's Nicole Jeffy, and she really was the voice of Velma.
Jinkies!
Also get Joey Ross as a cop, which is quite fitting considering he was a cop in Car 54, Where Are You?
Hold up in the Bronx, Brooklyn's broken out in fights. There's a traffic jam in Harlem that's backed up to Jackson Heights. There's a scout troop short a child, Khrushchev's do and I know wild. Car 54, where are you?
And here's a shock. We have a character who's Asian, and he's not a stereotype. He talks like Asian people talk. To give you a good idea, this movie came out the same decade they gave us Mickey Rooney in Asian makeup. So it's really refreshing to see a character who's Asian, but he's not a stereotype. That's not to say that Asian actors didn't exist. You had actors like Anna May Wong and several others. But for the most part, you had either a white guy like Peter Lorre as Mr. Moto, or an Asian guy playing an Asian stereotype like Charlie in the Kong films. It's good to see some equal representation in this film. Well, that's pretty much all I have to say about The Love Bug. But tune in for part 2 of Herbie Month as I take a look at the second Herbie film, Herbie Rides Again. Well, I'm Henry R. Mockingbird, your host with the mustache, signing off. I give this film 5 stars. Like, and subscribe to the channel and ring bell for future uploads. If you like to make a movie request on this channel, do so in the comment section below. And feel free to check out my other shows, Modern Classics, TV Treasures, and Geek Reviews. And check out my editorials. Check me out on Vimeo.